let's look at different types of energy. So we have free energy, which is energy that is available to do work. And so energy that is released when chemical bonds are broken are a type of free energy. And so we can look at the energy that's in the reactants and the products to determine what type of a reaction we are working with. In an exergonic reaction, there we go, the reactants, the starting material, has more energy, and that means that energy is released. In an endergonic reaction, the product has more energy, which means we're going to take in energy because the reactants didn't have enough energy. So we have to take in energy. Exergonic reactions are linked to endergonic reactions. They drive endergonic reactions because we're releasing a lot of energy here to drive these reactions where we have to take in a lot of energy. And so this is from a different textbook. This is actually from an anatomy and physiology textbook. But I like the figure, and that's why I use it. So we start out with, in an exergonic reaction, we start out with some type of reactant that has more free energy than the products. So these products have very little energy. Carbon dioxide and water don't have very much energy, but glucose does. And so when the reaction occurs, we're decreasing the amount of energy, and that extra energy is released. And it can actually drive then this reaction. So in an endergonic reaction, we start out with reactants that have small amount of energy. So in this case, we have amino acids. When we build up proteins from amino acids, these have lots of energy. Ooh, sorry. Okay, that does not spell lots, does it? No, I don't know what that spells. I'm just learning how to use this. There's lots of energy here. And so we're taking in energy from the system to build up these proteins. The energy that we release here is what drives this reaction. So endergonic reactions are driven by exergonic. Exergonic drive endergonic. Make sense? And I can also, actually I'm going to go back. I can also say a reaction that breaks something down. So here we have glucose, here we have carbon dioxide and water. We broke something down. That's a catabolic reaction. And here we have a reaction where we took in energy and we built amino acids up into proteins. This is an anabolic reaction. Remember, anabolic builds things, catabolic breaks things down. I always remember as cats break things, anabolic steroids build your muscle, so that's how I remember it. So catabolic reactions are always exergonic reactions, whereas anabolic reactions are always endergonic reactions. So how do enzymes play into this? Enzymes in general are protein catalysts that increase the rate of a reaction by lowering the amount of energy needed for that reaction to occur. And so this is a figure from your textbook that just shows here you have some energy of reactants. Here's energy of products. But like I said, all reactions require some energy. So the amount of energy is going to be reduced. There's that reduction right there when you have an enzyme. And then the product is formed. Okay. So enzymes reduce the amount of energy needed and so speed up reactions. Most enzymatic pathways are very branched pathways. So you have, let me look real quick. Yeah, I'll show this Okay, so I said most enzymatic pathways are branched. This is showing a linear pathway. Most enzymatic pathways are branched. Okay, and so this is what a branched pathway looks, and this is a very small branched pathway, but it's still showing branched. Okay, so you have some starting material. This would be, this could be, say, glucose, and we're going to produce water over here and carbon dioxide. So you have glucose, and then glucose is converted into some substance, right? Like glucose 6-phosphate. And then it is broken into pyruvate. The pyruvate can go into aerobic respiration up here. Or it can go into fermentation. So that would be a branched pathway. In a linear pathway, you have some starting compound and you produce an intermediate. The intermediate is then going to be converted by another enzyme to another intermediate until we get to the end product. So in a branched pathway, which is much more common, you have different intermediates that are produced, and these different intermediates can move into different, producing different end products. Some metabolic pathways are also cyclic. Cyclic pathways are very efficient because you start with some intermediate right here, and you end with producing that same intermediate. So you always have this pathway able to run because you produce the starting molecules for that pathway. I hope that makes sense. And we will be talking about at least the branched and the cyclic pathways in future material on this chapter. So the last thing I'm going to quickly talk about are the role of ATP and the 3 mechanisms for producing ATP. So ATP, as I told you before, is adenosine triphosphate. So here's the A adenosine, and then there's the 3 phosphates. ATP, when it is broken down, it releases energy and becomes ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So that's another APP. We can always build it back up. This would be an anabolic reaction. Breaking it down, catabolic reaction. Building it up, endergonic reaction. Breaking it down, exergonic reaction. So ATP is the energy currency that all cells use, including our cells and bacterial cells. ATP uses adenine and ribose. When they are connected, they're called adenosine, and 3 phosphates. When it is broken down, it turns into adenosine diphosphate with 2 phosphates. The 3 mechanisms in producing ATP are substrate level phosphorylation. It sounds really confusing. It sounds like a big, term, but it's really simple. You add a phosphate to a substrate. A substrate is just whatever you're working on. So if you work on, if you say you are an artist and you use clay and you build things, clay would be your substrate. So in this case, the substrate is ADP right here. You add a phosphate to it, plus P equals ATP, and you produce ATP. This is an anaerobic process. And we have oxidative phosphorylation, where we use oxygen to add phosphates to ADP. This is an aerobic process, so we need oxygen available. This is anaerobic. And then the last is photophosphorylation, where we use sunlight to drive the movement of hydrogen across a proton gradient. And that produces ATP in photosynthesis. So we're producing energy in photosynthesis here. All right, I'm going to stop here because this has been a 10-minute video and I don't like to go much more than 10 minutes. So I will get into the next video in a little bit. Bye.